There's a Marriott hotel charging resort fees, but only for people using points. We might be seeing some new Citi cards and a refresh of one of the best no annual fee ones, and also United tried to acquire Delta to make a mega-airline. This and more in today's roundup. Big favor, give this a thumbs up to help with the algorithm. If you know someone that might benefit, then share this with them. If you're looking for a good bonus, it's your last chance for the Chase Sapphire Preferred Card's 100k bonus point offer. Reminder that they did add new categories, including 3x points on gas and also EV charging purchases. This is along with 3x points on vacation home rentals, which include Airbnb and Vrbo. They also updated the hotel credit, making the up to 50 Chase Travel Hotel credit now up to 100 per each account anniversary year. For partner ones, the big one is 1 year of complimentary Apple TV when activated by December 31st, 2026. For the offer itself, you're earning 100,000 bonus points after spending 5,000 on purchases in the first 3 months from account opening. On the low end, you're looking at 1,000 in cash back or as a statement credit. On the top end, based off how I use points, I'd argue 2 cents per point, which would be about 2,000 in value for transfer partners. For example, transferring to Virgin for ANA Business or First Class. Their new business class is still the best hard product I've seen for business, and even beats a lot of first class products outside of the flagship ones. Another good option is transferring to Flying Blue for Air France Business. One that's underrated is transferring to Avios to book Finnair, which has a no-recline business class seat. The offer ends at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on July 30th, 2026. Reminder that if the card stops making sense in year 2, you can always downgrade it to no annual fee options, and this includes the Chase Freedom Unlimited and also the Chase Freedom Flex. This means you can test drive the card and get all the benefits of year 1 without the risk of being committed permanently if it doesn't make sense. Also, if you do want to run the numbers for this card or pretty much any other card, search card name worth it AskSebby on Google and it should pop up. On that note, if you want to learn more about this card and you want to support the channel, we have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and also down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive, that they make sense for you, but otherwise it's a huge way to support the channel, so thank you in advance. One Up Beach Hotel, which is part of the Autograph Collection, and Marriott is catching some heat. They're charging resort fees, which isn't abnormal, but they're only doing it to people using points or with very discounted rates. This isn't a cheap hotel by any means, with rates being north of 1,000 most of the time. Effective August 1st, you're looking at a $60 resort fee per night, and this applies to award bookings and significant discounted rates. Also, the parking fee went from $30 to $40 a day. Checking this for myself, looking at the points price, there's the $60 per day USD resort fee. If instead we look at the cash rate, we don't see that separate fee pulled out. Even if we go to the detailed breakdown, it's just government taxes and fees. In this case, it's $192. $192 divided by 1,028 is 18.7%. This exactly matches the Hawaii hotel tax, so the resort fee isn't being built into this number. That pretty much proves that this isn't something everyone pays, but only us points people. Okay, so what do we get with that fee? There are a ton of benefits, including daily cultural activities, welcome drink and towel service, lays per stay, beach bags, water flask, and also a lot of daily stuff like yoga, paddleboard, snorkel, boogie board, and kayak rentals. The problem though is that guests paying out of pocket get pretty much the same benefits. I run through my thought process and I am a bit conflicted and kind of curious where everyone else is leaning. So on one hand, this is a pretty expensive hotel, about $1,000 per night out of pocket, and that's most dates. Using points, you're often looking at 100k to 110k, which is about 1 cent per point. You could even stack an 85k free night certificate with 25k points for most of these nights, which feels like a win. That's the rational side of me where it makes sense, and even if it's not ideal, it's still fine. For the non-rational side though, it feels pretty dirty. The funny thing too is that this is on the heels of Marriott facing a class action lawsuit of them charging resort fees on free nights from awards and also points. Taking a look at the landscape, it's very much a Marriott and IHG problem. With Hyatt and Hilton, you avoid the destination and resort fees. There are still city taxes, but those tend to be pretty minor in my experience. I guess the one benefit is that all of them do avoid the standard room taxes, which does add up. So again, paying out of pocket, you have that 18.7%, which is almost $200 for this one night stay. Using points, you're paying the tax now on that new $60, but you're not doing it on the whole retail price, so you're only paying $11. As much as I am disappointed, math still works. On one side, you have $1,200. On the other side, you have 71 in fees and 104.5k points. Simplifying and solving for the points, we have 1.1 cents, which is pretty good for Marriott Bonvoy. I'd probably still use my points and certificates here, but still doesn't make me feel great. I don't mind paying a destination or resort fee if there's benefits, but it has to make sense. For example, the Ritz-Carlton in LA charged a fee, but some of the perks weren't even accessible on the days of our stay, so kind of felt ripped off. Luckily though, they actually waived it after we brought it up, so good service there. The worst one in my experience has to be the Intercontinental Mark Hopkins in San Francisco. They charged a fee for very minimal benefits. For example, a free coffee station in the lobby in the morning where any random person from the street could walk in and get the same coffee. Also a $10 credit to use at the restaurant, where we ended up buying a bottle of water, but with the credit, we still had a mandatory 18% service fee. Even worse is that they were supposed to have tickets for museums and stuff, but they actually ran out of tickets for one of them and then barely wanted to give us tickets for the other one. Maybe I'm alone here, but my experiences with IHG haven't been the best. This is a pretty stark contrast to our trip to Cabo this weekend. We went to the Cape, which is part of Thompson, within Hyatt. We ended up using a Suite Upgrade Award to get upgraded to a pretty nice room. No resort fees since we were using a Category 1 to 7 night, and also points on the second night. Same thing for the Park Hyatt Cabo, where we used points, no resort fee, and also pretty amazing service. Not a big deal, but even better is the fact that the snacks and the non-alcoholic drinks were free. At least the first round, but that's still better than nothing. Our last stop was checking out the Waldorf Astoria in Cabo post-renovation. This was booked with the Hilton Free Night Reward, which are now extremely easy to use, and again, no resort fees. I'm curious how you think about this and whether it changes how you redeem points. Also would love to hear about any trips you're taking or planning to take for the summer. In the past, I used to be scared to talk about my travel, but today's sponsor, Delete Me, has made me a lot more comfortable. Do me a quick 10-second favor. Search for your first name, last name, and the word address. Data brokers collect and sell this information. This can include where you live, your phone number, and even your birth date. This can dramatically increase the risk of you getting burglarized when you're traveling. Another risk is identity theft, especially with stuff like credit. If a bad actor looks you up and they can gather your past addresses, birth date, and also relatives to get your mother's maiden name, then they hit the jackpot. Back in the day, I tried to remove this stuff myself, but it took hours, and it felt like I was playing whack-a-mole. Delete Me makes it super easy, and I've been using them for more than 3 years. In that time, they reviewed over 120K exposures and removed 281 of them with my information. It reviews thousands of listings every month and removes the ones with your information. It does all of this in the background, and you don't have to lift a finger. On average, Delete Me removes over 2,000 pieces of data in your first 2 years. If you want to join me and protect your personal information, then check out joindeleteme.com/AskSebby and use promo code SEBBY for 20% off their US consumer plans. Okay, moving to a lightning round, we might be seeing some new cards. A few weeks ago, American Airlines filed a trademark for 100. This is tied to the issuance of credit cards. If you're curious about the number, 2026 marks the 100th anniversary of when American Airlines started flying. Back then, so 1926, they actually flew mail rather than passengers. As much as I'd love a new card, I think it's just a new card design. If it is a new card though, I feel like the personal side is relatively complete with the starter, mid, premium, and flagship levels. Those are the same levels that Delta and also United have. As interesting as the $1,000 annual fee card would be, I have my doubts. On the business side though, there is a lot more room to add something. 3 of the spots are technically still open, but first one doesn't really make sense since most airline cards on the business side don't really have no annual fee options. But yeah, for the 350 or the flagship level, those are technically options. My guess is a new card design, but let me know what you think. The one that's a bit more interesting for me is a new application for the Citi Clear Cash. For anyone not on Team Cashback or not in the Citi points ecosystem, one of the cards that was pretty good, Citi Custom Cash, stopped taking applicants by the end of May. If you had the card though, you got to keep it. For example, I currently still have a stack of 4 of them. We might be seeing a refresh. Taking a look at the card categories, it doesn't sound as obvious, but there are still credit card registration and also credit card services as part of the filing. It seems like they're trying to do a lot, but those are the 2 key ones. Taking a look at the old card, the Citi Custom Cash, it's pretty similar. When they're applying for categories, it's pretty aggressively, but key ones for us are credit card registration services and credit card services. I am a bit curious what they're going to do with this new card, given that the old card didn't really work and make sense. With a name like Clear Cash, I have to wonder if the prior card was a bit too confusing. If I had to guess, they're probably going to follow the lead of US Bank, where you select categories each month or each quarter so that it's more clear what cashback you're getting from where. The benefit for users is more clarity on which card is doing what, for what period. The benefit for them as a bank is people forgetting to register and clicking which category they want. But yeah, let me know what you want to see with the card and probably also them know. Heading to the last story, behind the scenes, United wanted to acquire Delta. Scott Kirby, the CEO of United, approached Delta, but luckily for us, the talks didn't advance. If this sounds familiar, it's because they tried to do the same thing with American Airlines. Kirby pitched American Airlines, technically after Delta, but it came out beforehand in terms of our knowledge of it, and the pitch was that it was going to be good for customers. As much as United wanted it though, American was unwilling to join forces. Ironically, I'd be less concerned with United and American teaming up compared to United and Delta. A big part of this is that American Airlines isn't doing the best. The revenue is actually doing great, historic high of $16.74 billion. That's up 16.3% year over year. Looking at net income though, that's down 88% to only $71 million. That's compared to $599 million last year. So this is American, and Delta is very differently positioned. Ironically, they have pretty similar revenue, $17.7 billion, up 14% year over year. Looking at the net income, so top line revenue minus expenses, they're at $1 billion. 1 billion or 1,000 millions versus 71 million. United's also doing pretty well. 17.67 billion in revenue, up 16% year over year. Net income is a bit under at 805 million, but still pretty good. In a lot of ways, and the ways that matter, I would say, Delta and United are far and ahead of the competition. Together, they account for over 90% of the industry's profits. They're making a lot of money. This performance is also reflected pretty well in the stock market. Both Delta and United are beating the S&P 500 pretty significantly, especially Delta. Taking a look at the 1 year, the S&P is up 16%, which is above expectation. United 30%, Delta up almost 56%. 56 is pretty astonishing. And mind you, the industry on average is actually up. Southwest is up 40% on the year, and American 29%. Going down the list, if we look at JetBlue, they're also up 24.5%, even though there are some struggles there. And the only one that's not doing well is Alaska, which is in the negative, minus 12.5%. Stock price and stock price changes are one thing. The other one is market cap. So the actual value of the company based off total shares and share price. So taking a look at this, which is arguably their valuation, Delta is worth $57 billion and United $39 billion. Together, that's $96 billion. The next four of Southwest, American, Alaska, and JetBlue only account for about $39.41 billion. So put another way, the bottom four are worth about $1 United. So these are pretty big companies, and I'm normally fine with acquisitions, but this feels like a consolidation of the industry. For example, I'd be more than fine if United buying JetBlue, since that's smaller. But funny enough, United's actually not interested in small deals, and they're only looking for big ones. Scott Kirby, their CEO's main argument, is global competition. The fact that some of the best airlines in the world, like Qatar, Singapore, or Emirates, aren't really just companies, but kind of represent their countries. For example, Qatar and Emirates are both wholly state-owned by their respective governments. This means that they have more room to maneuver and also can treat it as a loss leader. We haven't seen the deal for flights yet specifically, but Dubai is launching a Refer a Friend campaign for tourism, given everything going on right now. In a time of crisis where demand drops, they know that they're not a going concern, that they're bankrolled. Singapore is a bit of an interesting one where they are publicly traded as a company, but also owned by the Singapore investment company of Temasek. Technically, the government owns 56%. Mind you that you don't need to be government owned to succeed. Both Cathay Pacific and ANA are private companies, so they're not owned by the government, and they're also publicly traded on stock markets. I think the idea though is that even out of the Middle East, you see this government ownership idea. For the Air France KLM group, France owns 28%, while the Netherlands owns 9%. If anything, United and Delta merging would be more like Lufthansa. You've probably heard of Lufthansa Airlines, but what you might not know is that they fully own Austrian, Brussels, and also Swiss. They also own 41% of ITA, the Italian airline. United's rationale in that sense kind of makes sense. If everyone's heavily bankrolled or they're a super team, then you kind of want to do the same thing. It's not that you can't do it by yourself, but it's a lot harder when everyone else is teamed up. So in that sense, yes, international routes might now be more viable, but I feel like with a mega airline, domestic routes are going to be pretty weird. If they did merge, I think that they would have too much pricing power and things would get more expensive. Consider that Delta's already profit maxing, which I'm actually kind of fine with them doing. I'm only fine with it though because there's other choices. If there weren't, different situation. And to be fair, I probably am pretty biased because I'm out of SFO, a United hub, and the 3 airlines I fly are United, Alaska, and Delta. Delta if I'm going coast to coast, Alaska if I'm staying in the West Coast. I'd rather not lose optionality. Yeah, curious what you think. I definitely could be wrong, but I feel like this would be bad for consumers if it ever happened. Again, if you want to learn more about cards, we have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and also down below in the description box. And if you're curious, all affiliate disclosures can also be found below in the description box. Also, thanks again to Delete Me for sponsoring today's video. If you made it to this point, leave an airplane emoji in the comments down below, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. 3 questions. Number 1, what are your thoughts on resort fees? And also, which of the hotel programs do you focus on? Number 2, what would you want to see with the Citi Clear Cash? Lastly, number 3, if there were a merger with airlines, who do you think should merge? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favor, thumbs up, share this, but otherwise hope you liked it. See you next time.